Yukihira Soma, a young boy with a burning passion for food, longing to follow in his father's footsteps, while also created some of the strangest things known to man. Hey guys, Tora here, and today as part of the 12 Days of Anime, I'm going to be talking about how accurate is Shokugeki no Soma. Now, I love Shokugeki no Soma. As a matter of fact, for the past year, I've been training as a chef in college, as well as working for the past year as a commis chef or a trainee chef. So when I was watching Shokugeki no Soma, I always kept thinking, the food that they're creating, the stuff they're talking about, is it all real? So last year in 2017, Nerd Reactor did an interview with the creator of Food Wars, Yuto Tsukuda, and the main question that I pulled from this interview was one that I also had on my mind, and that was, how much research did you do for this? In which Yuto replied, I actually wasn't all that familiar with cooking. So at first when I heard this, I was like, what? Okay, so someone who's never really experienced cooking before, someone who's not really into cooking, is able to create a manga all about cooking, about a boy going through his life wanting to live up to his father, and it's all about cooking, but yet he never knew anything about it. But the rest of his answer to this was just really good. Kanji-san and I would actually go around every week to do our research via going to restaurants and eating. At the beginning, when we were doing research for eggs benedict and souffles, I remember having no idea what these dishes were like. So I ended up eating multiple portions over a span of a few hours. Now that made me think. He's gone an extra mile to make sure that what he creates is accurate. He wants it to be a little bit more personal, because if he hasn't really experienced food like that, he wouldn't necessarily know what that food is. But he went the extra mile and he went out of his way to go and multiple taste tests and find out what all this food tastes like, so then he can get a real grasp for how we should feel when we read the manga, and how we should feel when we see the characters eating the food, or what the characters would feel when they eat the food. So it definitely shows that he wants to try and make the experience as real as possible, but how real is it to the real world? So I'm going to use the example of the jalapeno steak don, and the process of cooking the steak. And what they do with this is they cut into the steak and then they proceed to rub onions onto it. But why would they do this? Well, it's because of the enzymes in the onions which help break down the proteins in the meat, making it more tender. But that's actually what happens, meaning that he's gone also a little bit further to make sure that it's accurate, and the stuff within Food Wars is more like real life, so it's more believable. And that, for me personally, gives it a little bit of a good touch, a bit more realism, if you will. So I believe with extra details like this, it shows that we can believe this world more. It's more of a connection to our world, more like an extension, if you will, and that we can relate to Soma more, and that we can sort of connect with him, because what he's cooking is essentially what we can do. We can do that, and we can follow what he does and be inspired by what Soma does. So you're going to take what you learn from the manga and the anime and see if it works in real life. But with this one example, then it brings more credibility to it, and it just makes it feel like I can do that. I can follow this and I can make something great. I can make myself a really, really nice meal. But as well as this, we see representation of different countries. For example, we see French cuisine being brought to us by Kojiro, and Italian cuisine being brought to us by the Aldini twins. Not just the fact that people have specialities that go deeper than just the countries. They specialise in something specific, really specific. For example, spices, or even just meat itself. And this brings a lot more diversity and representation of all food, and it's also brings more meaning and again more believability to the series, and it also opens up a new world for people looking in to all the different possibilities. They're not just focusing on, for example, Japanese cuisine. They're bringing in all sorts of different elements from all around the world. So you can tell he's definitely done a little bit of research to make sure that it's as accurate as it can be. Now, one of the main aspects of the show is obviously the foodgasms. Yeah, they're unavoidable. You see them quite often, and yeah, they're very funny. So yeah, they're added for comedic effect, but in reality, it's not too different from our world. For example, remember when you had a meal that you thought tasted so good, you could just lie there and just be in peace? A meal so good, you felt just amazing. Or a meal from your mum, dad, grandfather, grandmother that you've had when you were younger. That experience of a home-cooked meal is one that can never really go away, and one that I think most symbolises the foodgasm in which we see in Shokugeki no Soma. So the heat of the kitchen and the pressure of the kitchen is something that can be really hard to convey, because unless you've been in it, you're not really able to experience it. But from what I've experienced over the past year, I can pretty safely say that it may be a tiny little bit over exaggerated within the show or within the manga, but I really don't think it is. For example, rushing around to get ingredients, to get your dish done and get it out the door is definitely shown in the anime. For example, when they're just rushing around, that's pretty much what it's like sometimes. Like, it is crazy, and I can't really explain it at all. It's just, imagine just being under pressure, but at the end of it, the end goal and the end reward is just so very, very fulfilling. So really, Shokugeki no Soma is a good way to be inspired into cooking. And Soma is someone to look up to. For example, like Gordon Ramsay is someone that I would look up to. But Soma is also someone I look up to, because it's like he wants to try and do his best to be better than his father. And at the heart of it is the diner. And I think the food that Soma and his father are trying to create is the same warm and happy feeling that you had when you were young and you were eating your first home-cooked, hot, amazing meal by your grandparents, your parents. I think that's the food that they're trying to create. And even though his father went all over the world, he came back to his diner. He went all over the world to experience different food. He went all over the world to experience different ways of living and ways of experiencing food. And now he really just wants to pass it on to his son, because his son's going through essentially a college, but it's a lot better than a college in real world. The place Soma goes to, it just looks amazing. If that was real life, that would be amazing. But yes, Shokugeki no Soma is just something that can really inspire people to even just start cooking, or not do it professionally, not do it as a job, but just start cooking at home. Maybe just do something nice. And that comes down to the believability of the show and the accuracy that the author wanted to try and put into the manga. So tell me what you think about Shokugeki no Soma in the comments down below. I've been Tora, this is my first installment for the 12 days of anime. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and I'll see you all in the next one of whatever I make. See ya.